Africa to the FA Cup final. Yeah, but now let's focus on Kenyan football for at least the next 1 hour, or rather Kenyan sport, because we have other sport that we're going to touch on as well. I'd like you to meet my guest, FKF Presidential Aspirant Herbert Mwachiro, otherwise known as someone I've known for almost 20 years.
Actually more.
More than 20 years. I know you and your whole family. Half of them have gone through Radio Africa drills. I think you missed out.
Well, don't forget I did a show on Radio Africa one time.
You did?
Yeah, so we've all gone through that.
I called you for that show.
I had an evening show, a sports
Yes,
show.
yeah. On Radio Jumbo.
Yes, I did.
But that was on rugby.
Actually, it was a rugby show then.
It was a rugby
but
show.
We used to mix it with football because there was a bit of football in the evening, so we'd actually bring in the results. But,
it's hard anyway, Herbert, to find somebody who's a rugby fan and not a football fan, and vice versa.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a ball game anyway, so I guess we take it from there.
Because when I met you, you were actually, I think a little bit before, but when you were the Secretary General of Kenya Harlequins. What was your post?
I was the Secretary General of Kenya Harlequins.
Secretary General.
Yeah.
And you were aggressive in recruiting members.
Well, that was my job, and I think I did a good job of it, and yeah.
Habo, you made me pay membership for I think 2 years for something I didn't know I was paying for, but I did benefit when Safari 7s came around.
And that was the benefit, because as a member you get a crucial benefit, and that was the premium benefit that we offered to you.
Habo, for people who never met you, give us a background of who Herbert Mwachiro is, and you can start from your high school, which were the sports you loved, up until when you got into football.
Okay. I'll take it back to primary school, and I played a lot of football in primary school, and then when I moved over to secondary school, as well most of the time my father was the chairman of Kenya Basketball Federation, so I took an interest of football, basketball and rugby, because also my dad did play rugby in his school as well, club days, and I was basically playing all those three sports. Moving on to university, I delved into more rugby and then a bit of basketball and soccer at the same time. In my spare time, I spent a lot of social soccer. I actually played for Tetra Pak FC.
You played?
Yes, I played for Tetra Pak FC at one time.
That was in 1990?
In the early 90s, and I also played for Lantana FC in Westlands when they were in the Nairobi Provincial Division 2.
Really?
Other than that, I was more focused as a player in the rugby, so I did play a bit of football.
Yanni, I thought I knew you. And you're telling me things I didn't know.
Well, now you know. Now you know. It's never too late to learn.
Now, take us through when you were Secretary General of Kenya Harlequins and how you decided, okay, let me leave rugby behind and get into football.
I did my time at Kenya Harlequins as Secretary General. I'd actually come through the ranks because I've been an official for almost 10 years before that, both playing and being an official. But when the opportunity came, when Supersport came and they were looking for commentators, and they asked me if I could do football, I said yes. Do I have football knowledge? I said yes. I've been following football since I was a child. My father used to take me to the stadium. My uncle, Leonard Mambo, was a commentator. So on one side I'd sit with my dad, on the other side I'd sit with Uncle Leonard. And all
Uncle Leonard.
and all that would fuse.
You're being like a Jago,
Oh,
Uncle
yes.
Rayla. Uncle Leonard.
And that got me, that was my nursery for sports. And as I grew up and became an adult, I took my own destiny in sports, became an official, became a player, and got into sports management and sports marketing. So for me, sports is my DNA.
I want to just send a few shout outs and then I'll talk about a bit more. Shout outs to Onesmus Mutunga. Taita Taveta Tukoloked, that's your area.
That's the beginning of my area. You know, after Tituande going down, that's
your shines.
That's all
Habul shines. Honest Mutai is catching us live from Eldoret. Billy Graham Malika Radull Jaber. Tell Lampard to bring it on. This show is not discussing the FA Cup final, but we might touch on it. But I'm sitting here with a Tottenham fan. You're a Tottenham fan?
Of course.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
We're not talking about...
there's no soccer today. As far as we're concerned, there's no soccer today.
Hey,
Yeah.
7:30 p.m. Karanja says he's correcting somebody. Praxidis Ndeso. It's not just Arsenal, she said, it's the Arsenal. Guys, we're talking about Kenyan football today. Min Blessing, how are you doing, Waspi? She says Abu Dhabi to collect. Ken Korir to Kondani Kabisa. Queen of Bai Elizabeth 001 is locked in. Patricia Radull is watching. I need to behave. That's my mom.
Hi, Mom.
And Bimbo Wodachien is tuned in from the home of the world's best stadium, Estadio Hamisi, Vihiga County. Really? It would be so nice if that happens one day, that our stadiums actually have titles, eh?
Yeah, it would. I mean, and that's progressive in terms of ensuring that we have the right infrastructure for our football.
We'll get into your plan for Kenyan football just now. There's a photo I found the other day, which the imagery, it's not clear enough for us to show, but it's actually way back in 2008. We're at City Stadium. We must have been watching a Gor Mahia game because Fidel is sitting behind you, Chris Darling is sitting on the other side, Michael Kinyi is over there. Do you remember those days?
I'll tell you what game that was.
Yes.
That was Gor Mahia versus Mahakama. We were at the stadium together. I clearly remember that game. Samuel Molo was coaching Mahakama, I think, at that time. And Gor, I think, was with ZD. And yeah, we did watch that game together.
Mahakama was my default team.
Yes, and that's why you invited all your friends to watch your team lose.
Actually, I used to wake up on Saturday to watch my team lose. Where? I used to wake up on Sunday morning and call everybody I know, and then we hook up at, I think if we're going to Nyayo, we'd hook up at Kengele's West. If we're going to City Stadium, we'd have a place we hook up. If we're going to Kasarani, I think it was Choma Zone or somewhere. There would always be somewhere we meet up to go and watch the game. So you've been actually in the game of football for more than a decade.
Yeah, no, actually, from my childhood.
From more than 20 years, actually.
I remember in 1976 being with my father at City Stadium, a game between Gor Mahia and Blue Union, and there was tear gas. And my dad was in crutches, he had broken his leg, and we got separated. It was really scary, yeah, but in the end we came back together. But, those are my happy memories.
When we get into your agenda, I do want to discuss things that keep people away from football, and you mentioned one of them, tear gas. Everybody just sees Gor Mahia AFC Leopards equals tear gas. But before we get into that, you have been an official of Kenyan football before.
Yes.
In the capacity as?
Well, I was the CHAN director, the event director for CHAN 2018. The tournament didn't take off. And as well as being the deputy CEO at FKF for a brief stint.
So you were Nick's deputy CEO?
I was FKF deputy CEO.
FKF is the president.
No.
And it was Nick
the
Mwendwa's
institution is FKF. Simple as that.
During your tenure, I know this happened around, because you were not there for very long.
No.
You were there for a couple of months. I've seen people asking you about this OB van that was bought, about all sorts of things at FKF, money got lost for ABCD, but were you involved in any of those purchases for the OB van?
No, the OB van happened after my time. I mean, already there was hints that they were going to buy an OB van, but the actual procurement and receiving of the van happened after I left FKF.
But were there meetings, was there consultation to ask, why do we really need an OB van as a federation?
The whole issue of the OB van was very close. I think it belonged to the office of Robert Muthomi then, and he was the one who was the project manager for driving that. So that was where it started, and that was where it ended.
So he was CEO, your deputy CEO, but there was no communication?
On the OB van, no, that was his project entirely.
Because it's worrying when institutions operate like that. Because
you can say that again, and maybe you can understand why I had a short stint there then.
A very short stint there. Habo, I had beef with you because you were on the committee, the CHAN committee.
Yes. That
was supposed to bring CHAN, the Africa Championship, which is mostly for locally based players, to Kenya to host.
Yeah.
And it was such a fiasco. Stadiums, no stadiums, people not coming to assess the facilities, all this stuff. What happened in that whole CHAN fiasco that Kenya eventually lost out on a very good opportunity?
We did lose quite a very good opportunity, if I may say so. I think Africa was ready to have Kenya host the second most prestigious event on the continent, and that was the CHAN event. It would have been a marvelous 16-team event here in Kenya. We had, I think, everything in place apart from the most crucial thing that was required, and that was stadiums. Stadiums that were up to standard. Kasarani was barely making it. Nyayo needed improvement. Kinoru needed improvement, Eldoret needed to start from scratch, and Machakos, which is a standby stadium, was acceptable at the lowest standard ever. Yeah, but everything else was ready for the event. Unfortunately, we were in our political calendar. We had elections coming up at that time, so that also didn't augur well. And
this was 2017,
yeah, because the event would have been held on January 5th, 2018. And so from the whole of 2017, we were in an election mode. We had the under 18 that was successfully held, but between then after that, I think even the sponsors for the event declared as a high risk, and they were not too sure whether they were ready to put in their money in an election climate. So I wouldn't say that we were 100% at fault, but it was just the right tournament at the wrong time.
But there was also the issue of stadia. As the organizing committee, I know it's not your job, it's the government's job, infrastructure is the government's job. But do you sit on committees with people in government to say, as the organizing committee, the basic we need is a Nyayo stadium that's operational, a Kasarani stadium that's acceptable. Machakos for me is a pitch.
And probably this is where we need to sort of have a complete paradigm shift in our management of sports in this country. The priorities for us to be able to host world-class events or international events have to be based on infrastructure. Yeah, because the culture for us is always going out to attend events. But this was one where we were getting people to come and attend an event here. We need to have the stadiums in place. We can't just have one stadium. At minimum, as a country of Kenya's stature, we should be having about 16 stadiums that we can call upon.
Did you have those discussions with the government?
Yes,
did you have government people on
the
committee?
Yeah, the committee was set up by government, all right? And we did have those discussions, and we looked to see what can be the low-hanging fruits first before looking at the long term. I think in the long term, the government does have a plan to put up stadiums.
It's a very long term.
Yeah, but at then we were doing like what I'd call a first aid. First aid on Kasarani, first aid on Nyayo, first aid on Eldoret, or rather even actually, in fact, Eldoret was just a major overhaul, and first aid on Kinoru. Probably we would have been ready on the 31st of December to kick off, but that was too tight a timeline, too unacceptable for the CAF organizers to bank on, and that's why we lost out.
So the organizing committee, you're saying, were blameless?
The organizing committee did their very best. Also, we work with government cycles when money is released from Treasury, approved at budget, because it doesn't just come out like that. So, and it depends on what the government's priorities were then at that time. Remember, we had an election, we had a re-election, and I think that is where the risk of us falling out to hold that tournament even became higher.
Although I think, I think we were very poor planners as Kenya, because everybody knew there was an election. I know it was double problem, because as you say, there was a double election. We had an election in August, but an election again, I think in October or November, something like that. But we knew that the August election would come at a time when we should be telling CAF we're ready or we're not ready.
Okay, let me take you back.
So we have such a planning issue in this
country. Let me take you back. I agree with you. The rights for the tournament were received in 2013.
Yeah.
Between 2013 and 2016, nothing really much happened. Had we been working on that, we'd have actually moved ahead.
So you were appointed
I was appointed in mid-2016.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, mid-2016.
The issue was bigger than all of us.
Yes.
Just a few shout-outs here before we get into your plans for Kenyan football. Raima Jaka, locked from Westlands. Alex Wasam is locked from Bombolulu. Guys, I want questions as well. Ingoi Oscar, to our guest, what is it that you will be bringing from your time in rugby to football management in Kenya, given that football is a different ball game? Now, I think with that, we can get into Herbert Mwachiro. You have declared you're running for FKF president.
Yes.
What's your strategy?
Well, for me, my strategy is to bring about better management in football. Okay, I want to change the vision. I want to ensure that governance and sustainability are the key things that we are starting to build our football. I want to bring in a paradigm shift. In all that, my vision is to ensure that we raise the quality of our football. We bring about partnerships, we restore confidence in soccer, we give people a sport that even well-wishers, fundraisers can trust. That is what I want to bring. Better management.
That sounds like a script, so I'll go further and say how.
How?
Yes.
Okay, for starters, we need to have the strictures. I've got 6 pillars in place.
Yes.
Okay? Among the 6 pillars, it's all about inclusivity. It's important that we have everybody involved in football. We shouldn't lock out people. We shouldn't lock out bona fide stakeholders, right? We've got to look at ensuring that former footballers, former officials, former coaches, people who can add value to football are part and parcel of football, right? Then let me take women's football as itself, okay? Women's football needs to be developed even better than it is being at the moment, all right? The commercial proposition for women's football has never been exploited. Yes, we have a national team that is doing well, but that is by chance. We want them to be winners. We want them, because of the talent that they have, they are capable of being winners in this sport. They are the Eastern Central champions, or CECAFA champions at present, having beaten Tanzania away. That's good. It shows the massive potential of our girls. Right? We must put in resources to play women's football. We must grow the numbers. I look at moving the goalposts in Kilifi as a project that works. 12,000 girls who play football there with a socio-economic agenda that should be replicated around the whole country. Growing the numbers, raising the quality. I want to see more women coaches, I want to see more women referees, more women administrators, more women clubs, yeah, because they do have something to give. Women's football right now is among the biggest growing sport, and you know it, Carol, in the world.
I go back to my other question, how?
How?
We all want that. Well, okay,
Yes.
not all of us. Those of us who love the game, we want that.
All right.
How?
For me, I start at the grassroots, soccer mashinani. All right. We need to put in structures right from the bottom. Okay, ensuring that we have structures in place in all the 47 counties, 290 sub-counties, 1,450 wards. Okay, I'm looking to have pathways for coaches, pathways for players, pathways for referees, right from the bottom. All right. I said to the young upcoming footballers, if you can walk, you can play. So let's start at under 5, under 6, ensuring that we have good coaches there, right? So that we can have a pathway, ensuring that we have referees also who can grow. There are people who don't want to play, but they want to be part of the whole football ecosystem, all right? So I'm looking at saying, let's have nutritionists, let's have programs, let's have plans, let's have linkages with the schools. Let's have linkages with academies, bona fide academies, right? Let's even introduce futsal, because futsal, for the young kids, brings about their skills, all right? Some may not know what futsal is, but that's about 5-a-side, 6-a-side football, yeah, that we need to introduce, all right? And then bring it up, working with the schools, working with the academies, ensuring that we have the personnel. So we ensure that there's a pathway. If we build our quality at the bottom, and then it goes up, then we're working on a very long-term plan to ensure that even at our Premier League, we have the best. And we have quality players. We stop bringing in players from other countries. Not that it's a bad thing, but we have to give the opportunity to first Kenyan players.
We have the talent here.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. We build the quality from the bottom so that it goes up. It's a bottom-up approach. Yeah.
Because what we see a lot of in Kenya is somebody plays football in high school, realizes, oh, I'm not that bad, and then sort of bumps into the game, as opposed to training that player, schooling that player from the age of 8. Yeah. I'm told if you've not started a player technically from the age of 8, there's only so far they can go in life as a footballer.
I'm saying we're going to start at year 5. At year 5, that's where we're going to start it. Yeah, we have development talent identification centers, which should be development centers, and then move over to youth centers, right? So you're progressing. As I said, it's a pathway of development. First, you identify the talent, and then now you build it. You start working on it, and you need specialist coaches. Somebody who coaches an under 5 or a 5 to 6 year old cannot be the same coach who is coaching a 14-year-old. No, the skill sets are different. Yeah, we have a lot of former footballers who we can bring in, train, give them the skill, yeah, to be able to start coaching around the country in all the counties. If I may tell you, if we pick 3 players from each of the wards, there are 1,450 wards. If we just take 3 of the best players from each of the wards in this country, already we have 4,350 players to work with, yeah, to build on quality. And then from there, we take it up.
One of the biggest challenges for any football organization in this country is resources, which is basically money. Where will you get that from?
My Mashinani program involves county governments, sub-counties, and even involving CDF funds, right? Resources currently at the moment are being used at the top, all right? They're at the top, they don't get down, they're actually stuck. The current system of FKF resource utilization is like a funnel. There's more resources here at the top, there's nothing at the bottom. I'm saying, Herbert Mwachiro Soccer Mashinani, let's turn this funnel and make it a pyramid structure where we start putting resources down here. To all the counties, I'm saying, whatever resources that come in through FKF in my time, 30% of the resources will go down to the grassroots so that Soccer Mashinani can take off. 30%. Right now, there's very little going down. I'm saying, no, let's focus on putting resources down there so that we can build the structure. Development, youth coaches, yeah, referees, administrators, yeah, programs and leagues that will be there to ensure that we are now bringing about quality in the game, a pathway to the top. Once we start there, it goes up.
I've interviewed quite a few of the FKF presidential candidates, and everybody mentions the issue of counties and sub-counties. And I know for a fact that working with the Kenya government is not going to be easy. Last year we had, I think there were 3 teams, I think Vihiga, Kakamega United and Kisumu All-Stars, all of who were supposed to be funded by the county government. If you read the papers, and I'm sure you do, there was an issue with finances being challenged from the national government to the counties. About this time last year, it lasted for about 3 months, where money was not going to the counties. And I had Kisumu All-Star players calling me saying we've not been paid for X amount, and I called the CEO and he says the money hasn't come from national government to the county before the county can bring it down to the club. So the challenges, are you ready for such challenges? Because you're going to have a special relationship with the government.
Carol, we also need to repackage our football. We need to repackage our football, our clubs, our leagues, our competition so that they are attractive, so that we can get in sponsors, so that we can bring in partnerships, all right? Clubs that already are able to draw funds should be able to attract even more funds by the way of packaging. If you're a club, do you have structures? And this is where club licensing comes in. Do you have organization in your well-being? Yeah? With club licensing, you have organization, you have a CEO, you have a registered office, you have audited accounts, and you have a vision, you have a plan, all right? Any sponsor would like to be attracted or associated with any sporting entity that shows organization and vision. Our club administrators, we have to empower them to be able to repackage themselves so that they move away from being begging balls to actually sustainable entities. You give me a shilling, you give me $1. I should be able to show how I can use it and how I can bring even more. All right? Money follows money. If one of the blue chip companies sponsors Radull FC and they see that Radull FC actually is got a very good value proposition, then by association, somebody else will want to come in and support that. The rights that we can sell are many. You can be the official title sponsor, you can be the shirt sponsor, you can be the short sponsor, you can be the transport sponsor, you can be the official banker. Yeah? There's a variety of property rights that clubs must realize that they can sell. Clubs must know the value of their own product. Yeah, the administrators must be able to market. In Uganda right now, through club licensing, every club has been instructed to ensure that they have a marketing officer in that setup. It's something that we can do here in Kenya. Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda shouldn't be leaving us behind. If we followed club licensing, yeah, and developed it in phases and empowered clubs in phases, then we're looking at having business structures. Football is a business. Football is an industry. Yeah? If you go to talk to CEOs of corporations and ask them for money, then you must talk the language that they understand.
Yeah, because right now the CEOs are looking at the clubs and are like, am I getting into a kiosk business or am I buying a supermarket?
And that's what we're looking to change with Herbert Mwachiro. The whole architecture of football. It's a whole paradigm shift. all right? So that even when I go to Governor so-and-so or CEO so-and-so and say, this is the package for Kenyan football, this is where we want you to contribute, this is the value proposition, then they will understand, all right? If I go to one of the industries and ask me, what do I get? I say, you are selling water. Water, if you become the official partner for us with water, you increase your sales and your visibility. Yeah? So we're looking at having discussions like that increase the value of the sponsor as well as the value of the game.
You know, a few years ago, I did get to ask the current president, Nick Mwendo, about club licensing, and he said it was impossible to enforce it 100% because they would just be left with about 4 or 5 clubs that actually qualify for each condition of club licensing. And you know the struggles that club owners and club chairmen go through. Do you think our clubs on a wider scale are able to meet the criteria needed?
If we empower them, if we make them understand the value of club licensing to their clubs, then it's a beginning. Yeah? They will at least need to attain the provisional license, okay, before getting the full license. At least there's that. I remember Gor Mahia getting a provisional license. I remember Tusker getting a provisional license. Badari getting a provisional license. So it can actually happen. But it also requires a lot of hard work from the clubs. When you talk about quality leadership is not only at the federation, it also entails it happening at club level. Our clubs must also attract quality leaders, people with visionaries, people who can turn social entities into business entities, into sustainable entities. And I say sustainability is what needs to happen in our football and in general our sport.
All right, I want us to take a break, Habo. When we come back, I want us to get into what you think about corporate versus community clubs. And then we're going to talk about a bit about what's been happening with Congestina from the angle of our heroes and the way we appreciate them in big quotes. But just 1 or 2 shout-outs, because if I don't give shout-outs, these guys inbox me after the show. Okay. John Arum, thank you for listening.
I'll give you shout-outs to guys in my village as well.
So we started with Taita. I've not seen them. Did you send them airtime?
Of course.
Agosh Darongo is listening. Ronald Okot says, great plan for the game from Herbert, from the sound of it, and good luck. Ochi Wada says, the problem is the delegates going to vote. They will be bought to side with the incompetent leaders, and I'll get into your views on the election criteria in just a minute. And Ngesti DS Dungamata, just something for you to think about during the break. When declaring his candidature, he threw his promissory note on improving the welfare of footballers. My question on this promise he made is, what did he do while he served as the FKF Deputy CEO? So think about that question and ask it again after the break. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Jab is your left hand. Jab is your left hand.
Jab is my left hand.
Yes.
Okay.
So jab. Yeah. Jab. Good. Move around. Hey, jab. Nice. Always put your left leg in front.
Oh, left leg in front.
Yes. Jab. Nice. Got it. Make sure you always do your guard all the time. Guard. Jab. Guard. Jab. Guard. Jab. 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 Now combinations, 2 blows, 2 blows. 1, 2. 2 blows, 1, 2. Start with your left hand side. I want you to be strong, yeah? 2 blows, 1, 2. 2 blows, 1, 2. Again. 1, 2. Again. 1, 2. Again. 1, 2. Again.
And welcome back. I'm here with Herbert Mwachiro. Hey, it's so specific. Not Mwachiro.
No. Mwachiro.
You're not, is it French or Spanish or Italian? Mwachiro. Herbert Mwachiro, FKF Aspirant. And there's some questions that I asked you before the break, including this whole issue about this person specifically was saying, or Chiweda was saying, the problem with the delegates going to vote is they'll be bought by incompetent leaders. And you've had a lot of issues about the whole election process. And what do you think about the president being elected by a couple of delegates as opposed to the wider membership of FKF?
I think, no problem. At present, the constitution is what gives the election system. The election system right now is a delegate system. It is not an illegal system, but it is what is in place. What we must safeguard is the manipulation of delegates. What we need to ensure is the independence of thought for the delegates, which means the delegates themselves must be actually looking forward to be part of a football development agenda and not a democratic agenda. That is where our problem is. So I think the people who vote in delegates, right from the grassroots, must elect people who have values for football. And the whole problem is, these people don't get there by themselves. These people are elected from the grassroots, to ensure, especially those who are the branch chairman and all, they're elected by the grassroots. So they represent a constituency of football down there. They must remember that. Because you have delegates who are club chairmen and delegates who are branch chairmen. And the manipulation of football has to come to an end. We must be looking at developing football. We must be looking at holding a football election that is based on development, integrity, and openness.
But how are you going to convince these people? Because we also saw it from a national election standpoint, where in the 80s and 90s, it was about who gave out handouts as people were going to vote. This is in the national Kenya elections. And we hear, I have no proof, we hear that is how elections happen when it comes to FKF. A couple of delegates are flown off to Zanzibar and they're kept in quarantine in quotes and land back in Kenya, driven to Kasarani, and they vote. But how are you going to convince these people that forget about your short term, as you're saying, whatever it is, 50K, 100K, whatever you're given?
You seem to know more than what I know.
How are you going to convince them? I don't know the amounts.
Yeah.
And I said I don't have evidence of this, but I hear that the delegates are bought in quotes, that they can be bought. How are you going to convince them that to look at the bigger picture, that you'd rather earn for 5 years than eat for 2 days?
Which is why I'm telling you, Carol, with soccer machinery, we're starting with football at the grassroots, all right? So that ownership of football is right from the bottom, okay? And it is there that we start building trust. It is there that we identify people of like-minded thought, right, who want to build soccer, all right? By the time we are actually electing chairmen or delegates, they must be part and parcel of the soccer machinery agenda. They must be part and parcel of developing football. I am saying, you come in as a branch chairman, I am looking to put in 30%. For me, that's the carrot I'm dangling. You have 30% of resources for development football. 30% of the resources for you to have a development agenda on football under your branch.
So already get the right delegates at Kasarani.
Yes. Yeah. For me, it is the right people, like-mindedness, people who are coming with a development agenda, people who are looking to be part of my strategic plan. It's a long-term plan, and they are key drivers in it. I can't be in every county, but those now will be my people at the county level and at the sub-county level to drive the football agenda.
All right, the other question that I had asked you to think about was you promised to improve the welfare of footballers when you announced your candidature. And what did you do when you served as FKF Deputy CEO towards that?
Well, I guess my stint at FKF didn't have enough time for me to implement the ideas that I had, which is why now I want to be at the head of the federation to implement those ideas. I'm looking at to ensuring that there are football pension programs, okay? So that players must ensure that whatever they sign, they're keeping aside. Our players must be in the NHIF schemes. Our players must be in the NSSF schemes, all right? And whatever private pension schemes we can do for our players. Our players must understand that their life of playing soccer is about 10 to 15 years. And once they finish that, they move on to another level. There has got to be something left in the kitty and for them to either get into business or to ensure that they're able to survive. We don't want a player to play 15 years and come out with nothing. He must come up with something. And mind you, there are very successful Kenyan players who have done that. Now we need to increase their numbers. They need to come out as role models, as mentors to young ones. For me, one of the things that we are lacking in this country is player representation. Players must get into the culture of being represented by people who understand the business of managing their football, so that when they sign contracts, they ensure that there's something left for them at the end of their playing days. I'm even looking to see if we have pension programs for players, insurance for players, right? That they're able to access a bit of post-playing funds so that they can either go into business or set up entrepreneurship plans. The other thing I want to see is if we can infuse skills on players. Yeah? Players who want to be coaches. Let us see how we can work with the government to ensure that they can even get access to teacher training colleges, specially tailored curriculum for them to get a skill so that they are formal educators, so they can feed into the school system, whether at primary or at secondary, so that the TSC can recognize them. Right now, a lot of coaches are being denied work in schools because they are not teachers or because they don't have education teaching skills. We are saying, no, let's have specially tailored programs. Let's ensure football is in the curriculum at KICD so that our former players can transit from playing to become educators, to be part of the education system as coaches. That is what I want to do for players.
Professionally, you come from, you have a marketing background as well.
Yes.
Do you have any plans to have these, because the federation needs to trickle down to guiding the Premier League, for example. I know you want to start from the bottom up, but you can't ignore the top.
No, we can't.
Because at the end of the day, those at the bottom will aspire to play in the Premier League. But what agendas or plans do you have to make sure that these people take that marketing seriously? Because I interviewed, surprisingly, one of the other candidates who is in one of the clubs, and he said, I don't want to give too much away because you know which club it is, and he didn't want to offend his chairman, but they have an HR practitioner in charge, in charge of marketing. And it's still that thing of my relatives, my this. And how do you tell people that to get it right, you need the best professionals? And not necessarily even footballers, professionals.
Give the right people the right jobs. Give marketers the job to do marketing. Give finance people the job to do finance. All right? And this is why we have to embrace club licensing, because it gives the definite structures on how clubs can strengthen their structures and their administrative programs. All right? We must ensure that even that skill of commercialization is not only at club level, it's not only at the federation level, and even we need to put it down to the branches, so that they can be able to market their games. We will empower. And I'm saying we are going to look for people with the right skills to be part of the football ecosystem. And we will empower the branches on how to repackage themselves, make them attractive. If I take a club in the Nakuru County football ecosystem, right? There are industries in Nakuru that, if given the right value proposition, will find it worthwhile to invest in football, because we'll have repackaged, we'll have marketed, and we'll have the right people selling the game of football to them. We're looking at it on ensuring we have professionals doing the work of professionals to market football.
I have a double question here from Ochiweda. I think the first one is a bit obvious, because he says, Radull, ask him if he will be transparent and accountable to the funds the Federation receives from various sources. I don't see you saying, no, I won't.
I think that's a big yes. If Ochiweda, and I know who Ochiweda is.
Yeah.
I said governance and sustainability for me are my theme. So that is a huge element of governance that I must take.
Because if somebody's stealing the money, you won't be able to achieve the plans you have for the game. And then he says, should you win, what will you do to bring the fans back to the stadium?
We must make our football attractive again.
Yeah.
I want Kenyans to fall in love with football again. You guys are doing just a study because you believe in Kenyan football. We raise the quality of the football. We raise the quality of the product. We make it worth its while in terms of a value proposition. Draw in the fans, right? Even initially, we may have to not even rely on gate takings, but we want fans into the stadium. We bring in fans. They enjoy a quality product. They enjoy the experience. We want to make football fun again. Let's fall in love with football again by giving the fans what they deserve. Today, everybody's looking forward to that meaningless game at 7:30.
Where?
All right? But if that could be
it's a
Kenyan
Tottenham fun.
football,
It's a
that could be
Tottenham
Kenyan
fun.
football. We want to fill in the stadiums.
Yeah.
And we want to fill in even at grassroots. We want people to come in and watch football at all levels. When we know they're high school games, they're primary school games, they're always large crowds. That needs to transcend in terms of quality, appreciation, service, all through our Kenyan soccer.
I have a question here from Rolf Gibesh. He says, how will Herbert handle match fixing in football competitions in Kenya, and what are your views on sports betting?
Interesting. Match fixing is a disease, is a cancer that is affecting Kenya as well as other places in the world. One of the things that we can do to avoid match fixing is ensure that we bring in back live broadcasting of football. Because match fixing, if you notice, happens where in the absence of many places of live broadcasting of football. Also, we must ensure that there's a code of conduct that is signed by clubs, players, referees, coaches, and the punishment meted out on people who are found to be abetting this practice will be severe. I think FIFA already have taken a zero tolerance stand for it. We must also, as Kenya Football or Football Kenya Federation, take a zero tolerance on match fixing. We must have whistleblowers who will identify the people who are encouraging match fixing so that we remove them and eradicate them from spoiling our beautiful game.
All right, you did mention bringing in live football, which is something that is easier said than done. I work at Radio Africa, as you know. I was in charge of Bumper Sport, as you know. We tried to come in to sponsor the Kenyan Premier League, and we're given a fixture of almost $1.5 million in rights for KPL product, a product that hasn't been well packaged, as you say. So, and right now we know that the KPL is even struggling to find somebody to buy the rights for the KPL, which is why KTN, NTV, they're giving these games for free after bringing in a Spanish production company. So how will you ensure that we get a live broadcaster that it makes financial sense? You worked for Supersport, I worked for Supersport. Eventually Supersport was like, this is fine, it's not making financial sense to remain in Kenya. So what are you going to do to try and attract live games?
Carol, as I said, I think it's important that first let's repackage our football. Let's ensure that the value proposition that we're going to present to broadcasters suits them. They like it. That we can actually guarantee them that we're giving them a quality product. It's important that we get there.
How long is this packaging plan of yours to take? How long is this strategy?
For starters, I think we have to start small and grow big. We have to work with FTAs so that they can start showing football on TV. Once we have the FTAs showing football, and we can show regional leagues and regional competitions, we can take even the Women's Premier League and broadcast. It's never been broadcasted before. So if we give regional broadcasters or smaller broadcasters or FTAs opportunity to be part of the football package, then we're increasing the value of this product, right? Incentive to players.
But even to attract the FTAs, and those who don't know that, those are free to air. That's not like DSTV, something that's free.
Yes.
Even that comes at a cost to a broadcaster.
And that's why I think it's going to take a lot of negotiation, a lot of rebranding to give them the right product. It has to be a win-win. We have to start from there. Even the digital space is important. TV is not going away. It's just going to come in very many different forms. So we have to see which will be the appropriate modus operandi for us to get our football back on screen. And it's important. Even when SuperSport came, they helped build the product because they believed in us. They didn't come and find an already fixed product. They helped build the product. It is a pity, you and I both know, that they left when our product was at a good place and could have moved to the next level. Now we've gone backwards, all right? So we have to start this process again. Building a product with somebody who can trust what we are telling them.
A few comments here. There is one from Felix Makachia. He says elections are just a formality when one candidate knows who the delegates are and he eats with them. I think you've handled that issue of delegates. Just a few shout outs. Karamaja Bram is shouting out for Jaza Study because.
And for me, Jaza Study are a crucial partner in bringing back the fans to the stadium.
Because that is what corporates want.
Exactly.
They want consumers.
Yeah. So why are we pushing to get the fans back? Because we have a product that we want to sell to consumers. It's all about partnerships, and for me, partnership is key. I know somebody has criticized me or say you're only talking partnerships, but that's how the world
You can't work in isolation.
Yes, it's all about partnerships to build football, and that's what we want to do.
Ronnie Suma, he says women's soccer is the future. Habo did talk extensively about women's soccer at the beginning of the show. If you missed it, you can go back after this. The show will be available still on this page. Deco Kazola says, oh, he's watching from Nyeri. I long for the day, his name is Deco Kazola, we all know it's not, but I long for the day when Kenyan fans actually adapt and call themselves Kenyan footballers' names. Because we all know who Deco is, we all know who Kazola is.
Exactly.
Why aren't we seeing Kenyan fans adapt Kenyan football names?
Quality, Carol. It's all about the quality.
It's all about the quality. Yeah. Earlier, and I have a bit of beef with you, Habo, because I've known you for a very long time.
You know, you've used this word beef quite a number of times.
There is a time when your son was really, really young. That's how long I've known you. And he used to play at Ligidogo. And he used to go to Manchester, I think every August, to play a competition. And there was one August where you said that my son is not going to Manchester this year because his grades are dropping. And I need him to go and focus on his grades and forget about football for a bit. And I was really furious with you because you are a sports industry person.
Yes.
Yes, your son needs good grades, absolutely. But you also know the opportunities there are in sport.
I agree with you, but we have to learn how to balance. We are coming from an environment that is very different from the developed world. We have to ensure that both our footballers are able to excel in academics as well as excel in football. We don't even need to go far. Engineer Michael Olunga is one of our biggest examples of a successful footballer. I can name a couple of other local footballers, Brian Osumba, Wycliffe Kasaya, Paul Kiongera, Eugene Asike, right? And that's the role kind of model that we must continue to infuse to our players. Don't leave your education. You can work education and talent at the same time. Yeah? Socrates, the famous Brazilian football player, was a medical doctor, yet he played football to the highest professional level. We want that for Kenyans. We want to see more Dr. J.J. Masigas, Dr. William Obwakas, Nation Lulu Watch, because those are people who excelled to the highest level and still had a great education background. I'm not saying we don't refuse players to play, but let's empower our player. Let's add value to our own players.
Edwin Odipo here says his new name is Jaza Study.
It's better than the other one.
It's better than Kazola. No offense, Deco Kazola. Deco Kazola actually said we had hopes on Nick Mwendwa, but I won't read the second half of his statement. You can go there and read it for yourself because it's an unfair attack for somebody who can't defend themselves. Apollo Okutoi just wants a shout out. Florence Radull, yes, my sister, and Zax Waweru. Hey, hi Zax, how you doing? Very active on this show. And Ochi Weda, I think he needs to come and sit on one of these seats because he's our football just needs the right leadership. Then we'll be good to go. Just look at what happened at Cape Verde. It's all about leadership.
Yeah, 2015, I think the memories of that time, Harambee Stars flying a few hours before playing an international game, I think that's not what we want to do to our national teams. I'm saying for the national teams, we must prepare them, we must equip them, we must ensure that they are ready to be competitive, not just to participate. If we're going to play away games like the one that we're playing in Cape Verde, we should have been in Cape Verde even 3-4 days in advance, not waiting to distribute allowances to players in a ditch at Wilson Airport. No, that is not the kind of football management that we want. We want better, professional management of our national team players. And remember, the national team, whether boys or girls, whether men or women, are our key football assets at the top.
All right, we only have about 5 or 6 minutes left, and I did want to touch on this Congestina issue. Yes, it's boxing, but it is all about a national hero who we constantly... I mean, Congestina, we all understand that her issue is a little bit complicated. People have tried to help her in the past. I don't believe she's got the right type of help before in the past. And I don't think anyone has ever seen through assisting her, because there's rehab and then there's post-rehab. So it's a bit of a complicated issue. But we do have this recently formed body that is supposed to look at heroes, not just sports heroes, but heroes generally in Kenya. But what are your views in what is on somebody like Congestina, somebody like all these footballers? We saw before the late Joe Kadenge, may his soul rest in peace. We're always fundraising for former sportsmen and women of this country. And somebody said, hey, when they were on top, they had so much money and they wasted it. Actually, they didn't. And people don't understand that in Kenya, your name can be lights. You can have the trophies and the silverware. You can have an Olympic gold, but it doesn't translate to your bank account. What are your views on this whole issue of how we treat our heroes and what we can do so that we're not stuck in a cycle?
Good question, Carol. And I think for me that it is important that we actually recognize our heroes. The initial recognition of our heroes already is poor. We must take sports and put it as the prime. They are the key ambassadors of our nation. Only two kinds of people get the national anthem played for them. It is presidents and sportsmen, no one else. We must recognize the value add that sportsmen have done to this country. Yeah? Whether it's athletics, whether it's football, whether it's boxing, whether it's netball, whether it's basketball, but they have represented this country. They do a lot in ensuring that the name of our country is on the map. The Heroes Council, first and foremost, must have a criteria of appreciation, right? And it must take input from all sporting federations so that we know and do an analysis of what ails our sportsmen post-retirement. If we need to empower our sportsmen so that they can live their lives after that, so be it. Yeah? We must make them understand financial management. Some of them have come across into a lot of funds, but at the end of the day, they have wasted their funds because nobody taught them the art of managing money properly, the art of investment. So we must infuse that in our sports programs. Yeah? How to manage finances, how to be managers of assets that you own, assets that you make. I would be sad to see some of our players who are playing abroad come back after we've seen them earn millions, and in 5 years they've had poor investments or poor advice and are now begging again. We must make sure we never go back to that situation for our sportsmen ever again. And this involves the government's priorities in how they look at sportsmen and how they value the contribution of sportsmen to the country's national psyche.
Okay, just a few more questions since we have about 2 or 3 minutes. Harry Hare, okay, this is, I'm not sure if this would fall under FKF, but generally speaking, he says we should lobby for sports science in our universities. Do you think that we have enough courses for people who want to get into the sports industry? Generally, not as players necessarily.
And this is why the discussion with the Ministry of Education on putting in football as part of the curriculum opens up that avenue. I know Kenyatta University already have sports science as one of the courses, right? It is actually important that a university like KU markets itself more. We will be looking to get into a partnership with KU even more in terms of opening that space for sports science so that we can educate, we can bring in more knowledge to the sportsmen and footballers who have a keen interest. At the end of the day, if one has a keen interest or if one has the ability, we'll encourage them and ensure that they take that way.
All right, Deco Kazola is not going anywhere. He says plans are Herbert Nigani's kuinua ball ya grassroots. I think you did talk a bit about grassroots already. Kazola, please go back and you can go back and watch the show again. And then he gets a reply from Edwin Odipo, where Badilisha Dina Kwanza.
That's just a study.
Just study has replied to Deco Kazola. Felix Makachia, Mr. Mwachiro, please look at the camera and talk to us directly. Okay, there are two cameras here, so he's not really, I think, sure which one we are. Okay, this one.
I was talking to you.
Yeah, I thought we were talking to you. There's a comment here from Diana Yona. I think she manages the Tusker FC social media. She says, one guy who has really pushed me on my education from the day he knew I wanted to study sports management. Hadi Nikamaliza.
I'm very proud of Diana. I mentored her, I gave her encouragement, and I think for her, sky is the limit. I think she will go places, and she is one valuable asset in terms of a woman sports administrator, a woman football administrator in Kenya, and I encourage many to follow Diana's footsteps. At the same time, Diana encourage others who are in your footsteps. Well done.
Deco Kazola, this guy has beef with me. Radull, you need to vie for this FKF presidential seat. You have passion and the future of Kenyan football. And at the end, go Carol, and at the end we'll all be smiling. There's a guy over here sitting saying he's going to run. Why aren't you supporting him? Jack Arum, Coach Jack Arum following from the US. Okay, thanks for watching Jack Arum. Maybe I was going to read Bram's comment. He says he's following from Kingston Samitsi. Nyakwar Arabu says he's tuned in from Kericho. Yeah, he's enjoying the show. As we wrap, Habo, I see you came here with like 10 people. Look, I'm exaggerating. I'm feeling I'm allowed.
Yeah.
But who's in your team? Let's start. I didn't let all the 10 people in because of COVID. There's some restrictions, especially in terms of space. But who's on your team?
Now, I've got a team of advisors, I've got a team of strategists, I've got a team of legal. There are people who prefer to work behind the scenes and allow the candidate Habo or Herbert Mwachiro to be the face of that project. And when we get to the launch and when the election calendar is out, I think at that point in time, I will unveil my team at present, but for now, allow them to work behind the scenes so that as we continue to build my candidates.
Just very quickly, one question I missed. I interviewed Sami Cholet and his team. Sami Cholet and he was with, what's his name, Nicholas Musonye, and they were looking to form a union with a force with other presidential candidates, so that you could face, the incumbent always has a step ahead. He's always a step ahead of anybody who's challenging the incumbent. And he said he had extended a hand to you to join their team. He said they've not decided who will be the presidential candidate or the deputy presidential candidate. What would you think about joining one of these other teams? And I had him on the show with Aduda, who was not part of their team. And of course, he was trying to move him so that they actually have a bigger force in trying to get the incumbent out of office. And we saw what happened in the national elections. Opposition parties kept losing to KANU until they decided to become one force. Don't you think you would be better served or stronger if you joined one of these other teams?
I think everybody has their football democratic right to vie for this position.
Yes, they do, but it lessens their chances.
Yeah. I have my plans. I have my vision. Mm-hmm. If they want to join me, they're free to join me. We go this way.
Okay.
That's a value proposition. Yeah, but I guess everybody has their democratic space. When they declared individually. When I declared individually, and I set out my plan. I am not too sure whether this coming together has its merits or demerits. It's something that people will have to discuss at some point or another. But for now, I think we all know, one, we need an election to happen. Two, the mandate of Kenyan football is at an end because the mandate of the FKF is at an end because their term of office ended on February 10, 2020. And now our footballers want to get back on the field. We need to press. We finish this governance issue and get back to the business of doing football, which is playing, watching football, 11 versus 11, men and women.
I wish people would learn that football is an industry. I wish they would understand that it's not for fun. It's something where you can employ so many people, so many youth. We have an employment crisis in this country.
Absolutely.
And an industry that works can employ so many, we'll stop having handouts and actually earn the dollars that people so crave.
And that's why I keep saying sustainability, resource mobilization to revenue generation. That's what football industry is all about, generating revenue.
Abo, thanks for coming. I would have to say Herbert Mwachiro, FKF Presidential Aspirant.
My friend of over 25 years, thank you for inviting me here. And I look forward to being again with you. Again, it's something I offered you, you haven't responded. We'll discuss that after the show.
Those are no other domains. Guys, thanks for watching and thanks for participating. And if you want some of your friends to also watch the show, you can tag them on this interview. It will be there on Radull Live until Kingdom Come. It will be pinned at least for 1 week. So thanks for watching. And we'll see you again next week when we have another exciting discussion. Bye.